Last time on Missing Stars, our hero Eric Wilhelm was asked by the shy Anna if he would like to hang out this weekend. Freaking A! Eric agreed to go to the fancy dinner on the first night of Dankfest to check in with his friends and return with fancy-dancy, bitchin'-nancy food for Anna. The next day, he was interrogated by Ella regarding his date, but it was unknown whether Anna would join him at the dance in 2 days. Time will tell. Our story picks up as Eric goes on his quest to get fancy food on the first night of the gala.
It goes 1900 just as I reach the doors of the gala. There's nobody waiting outside, so I head in. Our tables are adorned. Okay, with crisp, cream-colored tablecloths, and there are vases of maybe fake flowers atop them. I take a look around. One of my questions is answered right away. There's a buffet table on one side of the room, all self-service then. Maybe this thing isn't quite as fancy as it's made out to be. I expected table service. The spread looks pretty impressive though, from here at least. My eyes sweep the rest of the room, scanning for faces I recognize. I spot one pretty soon. Ella is at a table not too far in. I hope she doesn't mind if I join her, at least for a bit. I don't want to depend on her too much, but equally, she is very dependable. I think she might enjoy it. Well, she really seems to like helping people out. She's just a little bit too enthusiastic sometimes. I grab a plate of food first, though. It does look better than what they normally have, that's for sure. Steaming tureens of various soups at the start of the table, followed by main courses from a surprising variety of European cuisines. The German food in particular draws my eyes. Dude, Germans have amazing food. Alongside the soups, there are trays, plates, cutlery, and hopefully polystyrene containers for taking food away. I'll be using one of those later. My plate loaded up with delicious-looking leg of lamb, a few fat sausages, sauerkraut, and potatoes. I head back into the fray to find that table. That sounds amazing, holy shit. Ella waves me over as I approach her table. Eric! I take a seat. I'm glad you made it. I didn't see you at the commencement ceremony. Did you skip it? Yeah, I did. I just thought it wasn't my thing. I thought you might say that. I was a bit worried that you might skip the dinner as well, but how could this not be anybody's thing? Yeah, that'd just be silly. I look around the table. I don't know any of the other students here. Some of them are eating, some are engrossed in conversation and haven't touched their meals. Some don't have a plate in front of them at all, and none of them are visible because they don't have sprites. There doesn't seem to be any sense of etiquette here. I decide to start eating. The lamb is tender and comes away from the bone with barely a touch. So what did you do instead of going to the ceremony? I pause, a forkful of lamb halfway to my mouth, then let the fork continue its journey and finish the mouthful before answering. I had to fix this cardigan up. There was a little hole in the shoulder there. Oh, I didn't know you could sew. Although, she takes a closer look at my dodgy darning. Perhaps that's giving you too much credit. Anyway, are you telling me that you sat in your room alone for an hour sewing up a jumper? It's a cardigan. I look at Ella sternly for a moment and continue eating. You didn't answer my question, Eric. Her eyes twinkle mischievously. I sign resignedly. I had to borrow a sewing kit from someone. Ella leans forward, elbows on the table, chin in her hands. Ooh, you already know. You're no fun. It was Annalise, wasn't it? Yep. That's really cute, Eric. Teaching some boring ceremony to sew up a cardigan together? Oh, my heart! I can't believe you just called the ceremony boring. Obviously, I wasn't speaking for myself, but you're perfectly entitled to think of the ceremony that way if you want to. I don't doubt Anna did too. I look down at my plate. Food's nearly gone. I've been subconsciously eating much quicker than usual. Shove it in there. Ella looks at my plate too, then back at me. Do you have somewhere to be? I consider acting coy again, but I figure it's not worth it this time. Yeah, I have an order to deliver to one Miss Kill. Yeah, that's Anna. Let's see, she ordered a, check an imaginary notepad. Literally anything, I don't care. That sounds about right. I poke the last piece of sausage onto my fork and swallow it. Plate empty, there is now no practical reason I shouldn't just up and leave. I wonder what the etiquette dictates, though. I've only been here for about 10 minutes. Experimentally, I make a motion as if to get up from the table. Ella looks at me slyly, then sighs. Off you go, then. She says this not impatiently or unkindly, and there's a knowing look in her eye. It's okay if I do, right? Oh yes, plenty of students just turn up to eat and then leave right away. Jesus. And besides, you've got a very good reason to want to get away, I'm sure. Go on. I feel strongly buoyed by this, and spring up from the table. Okay, have a great evening, Ella. I will, Eric, and I'm sure you will too. I head back to the buffet table. There are a few gaps in the vessels now, but there's still plenty of food left. I look up and down the table. No burgers, unfortunately. Take a couple of takeaway containers and fill them right up. One with savory, one with a few sweet things from the other end of the buffet. Did I just say fucking buffet? And head straight for the exit. Don't want it to get cold. The walk across the grounds to the girls' dormitories is pleasant. The sky is clear and it's surprisingly not cold. I wouldn't call it warm exactly, but still. As I approach the door of the building, I put my phone out to let Anna know I'm here, struggling a little bit to keep the two boxes stacked against my chest from toppling. Be down in a sec. She doesn't want to eat in her room. Strikes me as a little odd, but I don't question it. I sit down on one of the top of the steps in front of the dorm building. What, were you hoping to get into a room tonight? After a couple of minutes, the doors open behind me, spilling light out of the building and casting a long shadow of me onto the grass. Annalise clears her throat. I look over my shoulder. Hey! I consider getting up for a second, but before I've made a move, Anna walks over and sits down on the step next to me. I wonder how she isn't too cold. That school hoodie doesn't look that thick, although she could have always more than usual underneath it. I didn't really know what you'd like of the stuff they had there, so I got a bit of everything. You'll be pleased to know that there wasn't much green stuff. I passed her the first box. Although thinking about it, I might have missed the salad bar entirely. Anna stifles a giggle and opens the box. Her eyes light up as the smell wafts over her. She looks back at me and her eyes tell me thank you more clearly than a text possibly could. It's adorable. She unwraps a little disposable fork that I chucked into the box and starts to eat. I look out over the grounds. Despite it being pretty late and with the sun well beyond the horizon, the bright campus lamps have kept the ground surprisingly lit, and the sky above is densely packed with stars. I spend a minute to see if I can spot a few familiar constellations, but I don't know them well enough. Maybe you should talk to John. Wait, we don't know that about her yet. We don't know. Yeah, we know that she's the president of the astrology club, right? You know much about space, Anna? She looks up from her food, looking surprised for a second, as though she'd forgotten I was there, before smiling, then gently shaking her head. I don't know that much either. The Milky Way is really visible tonight, though. Look! I point up at the ethereal white band spread across the sky above us. Anna looks up. She gasps as though she hadn't noticed the stars were there. Were there? Perhaps she hadn't. Was she that focused on the food? Or something else? She continues to gaze up at the sky for quite a while, looking almost lost in its vastness. I join her in stargazing. The incomprehensible depth of the darkness between the stars really draws you in, doesn't it? That's so out of character for Eric. Annalise laughs and punches me on the shoulder. Okay, that was pretty lame, but it does, doesn't it? As I continue to gaze up at the sky, I hear a small whispered, yeah. Yeah, from behind, beside me. My immediate instinct is to look in the direction it came from, but I force myself not to. Good, just treat it as it's a normal thing. Take off my coat, placing it on the flagstone near me, and lie back on it. Without much delay, Anna does the same. My coat spread out on the ground like this is big enough for us both. Adorable. We gaze into the depths together, side by side, for a few minutes. It'd be really cool if I could tell you about all the different constellations right now, wouldn't it? I feel Anna nod next to me. You need John for that, I'm afraid. Yeah. Eric knows that she's the astrology person. Perhaps I should be spending my evening with her instead. I get another punch of the arm for my trouble. Strange it is. Strange as it what strange I haven't even finished a single drink yet. Why? I treasure it in a way. I fall silent again. In similar situations in the past, I might have expected a feeling of awkwardness to creep over me about now, as though I'm in the wrong for not making conversation. Here with Anna, I feel no such thing. The supposed chill of the night seems to have no effect on me either. Perhaps because I can feel Anna's warmth radiating from her just a few inches away from me. She sits again, cross-legged, to finish her food. She takes one bite, though, and passes it over to me, looking a little dismayed. Aw. I try it, but it's cold. That happened much quicker than I expected. The night air must have done it, or perhaps the cold of the stone steps when the container was placed down on them. I pick up the second box and pass it to Anna, to her apparent delight. Her eyes light up all over again upon seeing it. She opens it and immediately digs into a large and delicious-looking slice of caramel apple cake. I can't help but steal a bite for myself. It's as tasty as it looks. After another minute or two, a question creeps into my mind. I feel no need to steel myself to ask it. Anna, do you want to come and take a look around the open house stuff with me tomorrow? There's a short pause. I know you said you weren't too keen when we were texting before, but I just thought I'd ask again. I had a chat with Ellen, and it didn't seem like it'd be very stressful. Just something to fill the day with, you know? I look away from the sky and into Anna's eyes. I think I must look a little more enthusiastic about it than I intended to, as she appears almost scared for a moment. Sorry, I don't mean to pressure you about it. It's not a big deal. I just didn't want you to miss out. That's a good way of framing it. And yeah, I'd really like to spend the day with you tomorrow. I'm really glad I didn't spend any more time than necessary at that fancy dinner. Coming here was a great decision. She looks pensive for a few seconds, her eyes unfocused, looking past me as she thinks. Then slowly, she nods her head. As she does so, she smiles in a way that appears to be involuntary. I return the smile. Okay. I exhale, smiling more widely. That's awesome. It's going to be really relaxed and nice, you know? Annalise nods again, more vigorously this time. I realize that I don't need to say anything else. I lie back on my coat and stare up at the stars once more. Tomorrow's going to be so much fun. So fun. I read that wrong. The grounds are buzzing. What? The grounds are buzzing this morning. As I wander in the vague direction of where I think the open house stalls are supposed to be, I am surrounded by far more students than I normally would be on a Saturday afternoon. Morning. Jesus Christ, it's noisy too. Loud, excited conversation flows around me, with only the occasional word making its way into my brain. Anna's gonna love this. I didn't think it would be such a big deal to everybody. I know Ella's been super excited about it all, but you know, that's Ella. It would be weird if she hadn't been excited about the whole thing. The mood seems to be a little infectious. I can't help feel a spring in my step. That may be attributable to something else though. As it has been doing since I woke up, my mind drifts back to yesterday evening. Once we'd finished eating the desserts I'd brought, or as many of them as we could manage, we didn't do much else, but I wouldn't have wanted to. We lost track of time, lying next to one another, stargazing. I don't actually remember what time we decided to call it a night. I don't think I was aware of the time at all. I remember us gradually getting closer together. I'm not sure who was responsible for that, whether it was me sliding towards Anna, or vice versa. Maybe it was both of us. That seems quite likely. In the end, in the chill of the night, we were lying there, body next to body, and time became irrelevant. She was so warm. I could feel her thigh against mine. I had a few layers on top, but on my legs, Jesus, was just a thin pair of chinos. And I think Anna was just wearing leggings or something. I didn't pay attention. Did you not? I only remember how warm that part of my leg felt, despite my thin single layer of clothing. We texted back and forth a bit once I got to my dorm room, but I never once looked at the time on my phone. It never occurred to me to. Yes, at some point I just realized that if I wanted to enjoy today, I'd need to get at least a little bit of sleep. I'm not sure what my plan is, though. I figured I'd check out the open house myself first before bothering Anna with any of it. As I approached the stalls, I started looking out for some familiar faces. Although I recognized plenty among the students milling about, just from having passed them in the halls or seen them across a classroom, I still can't put a name to any. There's not that much of interest to me here. Or, okay, on an ordinary day, plenty of what's on offer here might be of interest to me. Perhaps I'd seek out a stall to do with geography or something. I wasn't sure what to expect, but a lot of the attractions here appear to be one or two people just telling others about what interests them. I'm sure all the school's clubs and groups must have a presence here, but apparently it goes beyond that too. But try as I might, I can't build up any interest in this stuff. My mind is elsewhere. Giving into my basal urges, I about face and head back to the dormitory buildings. I'm not sure why I didn't just swing by to see Anna in the first place anyway. I push the girls' dorm doors without a second thought and head straight for the stairs. I haven't let Anna know that I'm coming. I hope she doesn't mind me turning up unannounced, though I think she should be expecting me after last night. I'm not sure what time she was expecting to get started, though. What time does she normally wake up on a weekend, I wonder? I reached the top of the stairs without any real issue, only realizing I'd managed to do so after the fact. Perhaps that comes from having other such strong thoughts in my head, and having no time to worry about climbing the stairs as I did yesterday. A moment later, I'm knocking a little gingerly on the floor of room 211, yes. Our hand apparates inside the room and starts rapping on the floor, like Vanilla Ice. Fuck that guy. I'm talking about the JoJo's Vanilla Ice. I give it a moment, but nothing. Another knock. This time, from the other side of the door, I hear what sounds like sheets rustling, followed by the creaking of bed springs. Checking my watch, I snicker a little under my breath. Still in bed at almost 11 o'clock. Once the rustling and creaking subside, though, there's no further sound of anybody approaching the door. Maybe she wants to know who it is before answering the door? Anna? It's Erik. You know, that creepy guy who brought you loads of food last night and then just sat down on the ground next to you for ages? I hear what could be a laugh, or could be the further rustling of bedclothes. Hard to tell. Next second, though, I hear the approach of footsteps to the door, and a moment after that, it opens a smidge. I totally forgot that happens. Anna's face, or a narrow sliver of it, appears in the crack. Although I can't see her mouth, I see a crease appear in the corner of her eyes. She then holds her hand up in the crack, one finger extended. I take this to mean 1 second, before dashing back into the gloomy depths beyond the door. That was awesome. I hear frantic footsteps and what sounded like a wardrobe being flung open. Anna left the door ajar, and I'm tempted for a moment to prod it open just a little further before realizing what a bad idea that would be. I picture the scene instead, and smile faintly at the comedy of it. It's not long before Anna opens the door wider herself. Aw, that's cute. It takes my brain a second to catch on to what I'm seeing. I had fully expected Anna to appear wearing the school uniform again for some reason. It's a cute outfit. More stylish than I expected anyway. Is it rude of me to think that? Are we not supposed to wear a uniform to the open house thing? Anna looks at me a little scornfully, shrugging. Okay, perhaps that was rude. Nice outfit, though. I like your, turtleneck thing. She grins at my awkwardness, looking pleased with herself, and tugs on the drawstrings dangling from her neck, pulling the collar closed a little tighter. You ready to go and have a look around? I had a quick look already, but, I started the sentence subconsciously without realizing where it was leading. Realized that, it'd be a lot more fun with some company. I look at her rather sheepishly. Anna doesn't hold it against me, though. The pleased with herself expression remains firmly in place. She gestures in the direction of the stairs. Let's get going. We do. Okay, back at the open house stall area. I'm not really sure what to refer to the thing as. The walk back from the dormitories felt significantly shorter on the walk to them, and I am in no doubt as to why that was. Now I care to properly look around. The stalls seem quite spread out, but the space between them is busy and full of people. With this many people about, it's difficult to tell which stall is which. I see a lot of the school's many and varied leaflets and flyers about the place. I figure the prime objective of this whole thing is to attract more parents to the school and persuade them to send their kids here. I'm not sure how I feel about the concept. Although my first couple of weeks here haven't been bad exactly, the whole experience of being uprooted and moved somewhere else has hardly been life-affirming. It's not been long, though. I'll withhold judgment for it. Full judgment for it a bit. Jesus, I look to the Anna. I look to the Anna, wondering what she thinks about the whole thing, though her expression is a little startling. While she doesn't look scared exactly, there's a clear apprehension on her face at the thought of spending any time here. You alright? She looks at me, apparently trying to remove the expression of apprehension from her features, but failing. She nods, nonetheless, and looks back at the crowd and inhales deeply. We don't have to. She looks back at me quickly, vigorously shaking her head. Not if you don't want. She shakes her head still more vigorously, then takes my arm and pull it. Wow. I'm dragged arm first into the crowd. I mean, that's like way more assertive and willing to engage in physical contact than we've ever seen her. I'm dragged arm first into the crowd. Anna apparently paying no mind to the tumult that quickly envelops us. It's not actually that busy, I find out. It looked a lot worse from the outside, but the crowd is mostly static and is split up into clear groups surrounding each stall, and there's plenty of space to move between them. I wouldn't be bothered either way, but I'm glad that it's not a crush for Anna's sake. Is a crush like a slang term I'm not familiar with? I don't know. That said, she doesn't seem to be that bothered either, now the plaster has been removed, so to speak. In fact, she's now looking around quite eagerly for something interesting to do. Awesome. I'm not sure we're going to find very much, but I try not to let this pessimism get to me, instead taking her lead in looking out between each of the stands that surround the perimeter of this part of the school's grounds. So many pamphlets. I don't think I've ever seen so many in one place. One stand in particular seems to catch Anna's eye, and I think I can see why. The table is covered in a small display of a few musical instruments, a guitar, a set of bongo drums, a few sets of panpipes, a keyboard, and a few others. The practical nature of this stand is attracting lots of other visitors, too. A couple of the students running the stall are jamming away on a few of the instruments, which is drawing a bit of the crowd, and some of the visitors are joining in occasionally as well. I figure Anna needs a nudge in the right direction, as she doesn't seem to be coming to a conclusion on her own. You want to check out the music stall? She looks at me and smiles. Sweet! Looking back at the stall, she appears bolstered by my encouragement and leads the way toward it. Closer to, the music that the students are playing becomes more audible. It's being kept at quite a low volume, but now that we're just a few feet away, the melody is clear. One of the students is on the keyboard and another is tapping away at the bongos with one hand while hammering a few notes with a pair of mallets on some other instrument I don't recognize with the other. They seem to be entirely improvising, and while eclectic, it's an enjoyable performance. The keyboard player seems to be fairly skilled, and their hands dance effortlessly up and down the keys. I don't really know what to call what they're playing. Sounds kinda jazzy. It seems as though the keyboard player has split the keyboard into two different instruments, which I didn't know was possible. I look to Anna again. Looks like she's enjoying it as well. In fact, she's closed her eyes, and as I look at her, a faint smile plays across her lips. Whoever here seems to have been the right choice then. This unexpected musical experience is apparently exactly what Anna needs to zone out the crowd. For a while we stand there side by side, enjoying the performance. My mind wanders freely as we do so, returning first to our stargazing session the other night, and then to I don't know what. Just as it was so easy to let time fly by that night, so too is it now. After a minute, Anna leans against me, her arm pressing against mine. Oh, that's so adorable! I'm not sure if she's conscious of this. I decide not to say anything. I don't want to bring her out of her reverie prematurely. It happens before long anyway, as the impromptu performance comes to an end. After a brief applause, the two students quickly return to handing out brochures for the music department as quickly as they can before the sizable crowd disperses. Anna's eyes remain closed for a few moments before she appears to realize the performance is over. She opens her eyes with a slight jolt, as though waking from almost sleep. Almost sleep. My enunciation is shit. It's alright, I'm gonna get some treatment to shift my freaking molar away from my tongue so I'm not biting it every single time I talk. If I play too many of these visual novels and I read aloud, I basically rub my tongue to the point where it's bleeding. Momentarily, she looks around slightly dazed before her eyes settle on the now abandoned instruments, then on me. She smiles at me, then realizes her shoulder is still pressing heavily into my upper arm. She springs away from me with another jolt, but doesn't look too horrified by it. After the initial shock has passed, she smiles again. even laughing a little. I receive one of her little punches to the same arm. I'm becoming very fond of this small gesture of familiarity. Do you know who those guys were? They were ghosts. Anna shakes her head. We should keep an eye out for them, shouldn't we? I thought they were really good. The keyboard player, especially. Anna nods vigorously, and then, in a pattern I'm starting to recognize, thinks for a moment, looks briefly frustrated, and whips out her phone. The percussionist was good too, though. Don't underestimate the power of the bongo. I laugh. You're right. Bongos are very important and powerful instruments. Actually, I think I do know the keyboard guy. I recognize him from the music club. I raise my eyes in surprise. You're in the music club? Oh no. I went once. I nod in understanding as Anna continues typing. For about 5 minutes. I laugh, as does Anna. At one point I might have thought that admitting that sort of thing would be embarrassing to her. I'm glad that's not the case. You know what? One of the best things that I've been able to do to cope with my issues? I mean, these days I'm very stable, which is great. Back in the day, one of the best things that I found to help me just deal with all of the freaking uncertainty and the horrible thoughts in my head, like, oh, am I a freak of nature? What is it? Just, kind of make light of it? Not go too overboard, but find some humor in your problems, as long as they're not too severe. You don't want to make a joke about suicidal ideation. Unless you're with other people who have suicidal ideation, then it's hilarious. I might not have had the same or even similar experiences as her, but it feels better to make at least a little light of such things rather than dwelling on them in misery. Exactly, Eric. She looks back to the stand. I wish I could play keyboard. Do you play any instruments? Oh no, not really. I think for a moment. When my brother and I went out on hikes and stuff, I'd take a harmonica with me. It's tiny and weighs next to nothing, so there was no harm in tucking it in some nook in my pack somewhere, I never really picked it up that well, but I'd have a go occasionally. Gustav was better than me, though. He gave me the whole idea of bringing it along, actually. Why would you take a harmonica hiking? I'm not sure. In case you stumble upon an impromptu bluegas band, that's what I wanted to do. Fuck. Just messed up the joke. I think back to our hikes at the time when the harmonica got played. It was always when we were taking a break, sitting around making jokes together. I guess having some kind of music to enjoy was really energizing, Revitalizing after a long walk. On the hikes where we didn't have it, it was still fine. We'd rest for a bit and eat something and have a chat. It was nice. But a bit of music really elevated things, even if it was just one of us doodling around on a harmonica. Know what I mean? We'd laugh about how bad we were, or challenge one another to play something new. Please don't comment on us sharing the same harmonica. Anna smirks. I wasn't going to say anything. I'm sure there wasn't that much saliva on it. Your mouth can get kind of dry after a lot of walking, as a matter of fact. But no, there wasn't much saliva. There are a few seconds of silence as I try to remember what I was talking about. Right, so the point is, music is pretty good. Man, Wilhelm, you've opened my mind. You are a great orator. Thank you. I decide not to take the bait for once. Anna looks slightly disappointed. She looks back at the stand, the former crowd of which is now almost entirely dispersed. The students running are perched on the table, chatting the instruments set aside. She sighs gently, looking down at her phone again. But yes, music is pretty good. I'm glad you appreciate it on some level. I wasn't sure how much it meant to you, and I still don't know enough about your taste. Well, hey, I listened to all those albums you told me to listen to, didn't I? Anna blushes a little. I'd forgotten I did that. You did listen to them all, though. It was cool of you to do that. You should do a list for me sometime. Yes, totally. The Apple Swing Orchestra, Chiasm, Tool, if you want. That would be fun. I don't know if I know enough albums that well to endorse them like that, though. Then listen to more music. She smiles at me encouragingly. It's not really a demand. You just want an opportunity to judge my music taste, don't you? Naturally. I turn around, thinking I might suggest taking a look at some of the other stalls, but my thoughts are interrupted as a familiar face approaches. For a moment, I wonder if I should turn around and try to flee. Is it Fran? I'm not sure why this is my first reaction. It's all for nothing anyway, though, as the person is upon me before I have a chance to get away. It's totally Fran. Goddamn, Eric, you're here! I'm really glad to see you. I was here earlier this morning and thought I might see you at 10ish, but I didn't. Where have you been? Oh, just... Have you spent any time with Anna yet? Today? You guys are meeting up today, right? I glance meaningfully over my shoulder. For some reason or another, Anna has chosen not to acknowledge that I am talking to somebody else. She must have heard us, though. Oh, hi, Annalise. After a moment that feels slightly too long, Anna turns to face Ella. This is an unusual moment. It occurs to me only now that I've never actually seen Anna interact with another student. I'm not really sure how it's going to go. I don't think Anna is either, from the looks of her. She doesn't look shocked exactly, but it's still quite the expression. The moment isn't anywhere near as long as the string of thoughts that races through my head would make it seem, but it's a little overlong nonetheless. After that moment, Anna doesn't respond vocally, but I didn't expect her to. Instead, she gives Ella a small wave, though I note it's a little more significant than the ones I'm used to. I think she must really be trying her best. Oh, she's up close. Ella gives her a broad smile and doesn't show any indication of being wrong-footed by Anna's lack of speech. It's really good to see you here as well. I'm glad you made it out. This is your first time coming to these things, isn't it? Anna nods. She's not smiling. That isn't to say that she looks especially angry or put out or anything like that. I think I'd just grown used to her smiling at me. But I remember now that it wasn't always like that. Are you having a good time so far? Anna nods again, then pauses. She waves her hand in the direction of the music stand. It's a somewhat awkward mechanical motion. Ah, I should have known. I heard them playing from over there, but I didn't have the time to come check it out, unfortunately. Too busy handing out leaflets and talking to parents. Where the fuck is my voice with her going? She's like a mix between Katja and Anna at this point. It's a very good year for the open house, you know. Oh shit! This is definitely the busiest I've seen it, and a lot of the parents who are visiting are really interested. She beams again. Anna falters and returns a brief, faint smile, which quickly withers. For the tiniest moment, I see a flash of frustration on her features. Ella doesn't seem to notice this. Get her out of there. Get her out of there. Ella looks between Anna and me. I think she might not be sure of who to talk to. She lands on me in the end. Are you guys gonna spend a while here, or... well, I was just about to say... I turn to Anna. Did you want to wander around and have a look at some of the other stands? Get her out of there. Looking at me, she gives me more of a smile, but when I'm used to, it nods. Oh, okay, cool. I'm really glad. I'm not sure how much more there will be to interest you. I'll be honest, a lot of the stalls are just for parents. There are a few that are a bit more interesting, though. The art club have put on a bit of an exhibition. There's some really good stuff there. You should check it out. We might do. Thanks for the tip. I've got to go back to it, but it was nice to see you. Both of you, I mean. Why am I saying words that are not on the screen? And real good to properly meet you, Annalise. Anna walks away, giving me a very subtle wink and a somewhat less subtle thumbs up as she does so, though Anna doesn't seem to notice. Hey. Once she's out of sight, Anna deflates. Quite literally, in fact. She exhales enormously, her torso shrinking. I can only imagine how difficult that was for her. This seems to have been involuntary, as when she realizes I notice, she looks at me in surprise. She then looks around briefly before grabbing my wrist and dragging me off in the direction that turns out to be the quickest way out of the crowd. Okay, yeah, get her out of there. When we're free of the not actually that dense gathering of people, she stops and takes another deep breath. I'm starting to get a little concerned, to say the least. Anna, is everything okay? Stupid question. She turns to me. She doesn't actually look that upset or anything, surprisingly. Her expression is very neutral. In the past, when Anna has been upset, it's been quite visible on her face. She looks me in the eyes, but doesn't speak. Anna? She looks away, then closes her eyes and breathes deeply again, and slowly shakes her head once. She gives me a brief smile, then shakes her head again in a way that says, never mind, it doesn't matter. It does matter, though. It's really hard to tell if she means it or not, but I've not known her to be disingenuous before now. You sure it doesn't matter? Or, wait, were you shaking your head to mean, no, I'm not okay? She laughs silently and nods, then apparently realizing that doesn't actually clear things up at all, she looks temporarily down at the floor. Wow! Yeah, I'm fine. She doesn't sound especially solemn or anything, and looks back at me right away. You don't want to talk about whatever you were feeling just then? She looks genuinely thoughtful for a moment, her eyes unfocusing a little as she stares past my shoulder, then looks back at me, smiling again. Things just get a bit much sometimes. She exhales deeply again. Then, looking around, she gestures toward a slope on the grass. I take a seat, my arms on my knees. She sits cross-legged. For a minute, we look into the crowd. The people milling around become almost hypnotic as my mind wanders. It's like being at an aquarium with a slightly overfilled tank, so the fish are constantly sliding over one another, like they're part of the water. The house demirs, it's pretty good, actually, apparently. I mutter under my breath, not really conscious of the fact, but Anna looks at me puzzled, and I realize I'd said it louder than I thought. Oh, it was just one of the things that my sisters said it was something I should check out at some point. When they found out I was coming here, you know. What? Yeah, that didn't make any sense, did it? I was just looking at the crowd and I thought they looked like fish, and so I was reminded of the aquarium in the town that I've never been to and have been recommended once. Right, okay, that makes sense. Yeah? Sure. She laughs silently, then looks back at the crowd for a few seconds. They do kind of look like fish. There's another few seconds of silence. I really want to ask something, but wonder if it's the right time or if I should ever ask it at all. I decide, after not much thought, that it is, and I should. So yeah, it was just that we stop at the same time, then laugh at the same time, then stop laughing at the same time. Anna gestures at me. Our awkwardness gives me pause to consider whether or not it's a good idea, but I forge ahead nonetheless. You're speaking to me. And quite a lot too, not just shouting sewing kit and running out of sight as quickly as possible. I grin at her, hoping the joke was appreciated. It is appreciated. Fuck. She looks a little sheepish about it, but appears to take it in the way I intended. Is it okay? Okay? Well, yeah, it's more than okay, actually. Beats texting. I'll probably still do that. Just a fair warning. I understand. I'm not sure I do, actually. But one thing at a time. All you have to understand is that she has difficulty talking. You don't have to understand why that is. It's not your job to understand why that is. It's your job to be considerate of her and accommodate her as best you can to make her feel comfortable. Honestly, I just didn't feel like typing. And I forgot to charge my phone last night, so... Now that she's speaking with me at length, I noticed one other thing about her voice that I hadn't until now. Although she's speaking surprisingly clearly, and not mumbling or stuttering at all, her voice sounds somehow shaky. In a strange way, it almost sounds like somebody on the verge of tears. Oh, Jesus. I hope that's not what it actually is. God, I really hope that's not what it is. I'd feel like such a dick. I don't know why it's such a challenge. For me. She glances at me, then looks back at the crowd. Okay, it's not just in my imagination. That was definitely a quavery, She swallows and breathes deeply again. I think I'm just not used to it. That's probably all it is. Her tone doesn't suggest that she's making things up. You aren't sure why it's such a challenge? Not really. Whoever is certain about the root cause of their problems, though. I think I might have an idea. You fell off a fucking mountain. I think the cause is pretty clear. I see her glancing at me again out of the corner of my eye. Of my problems, I mean, not yours. Yeah, apparently the weather just sparted you off the freaking cliff. She laughs and resumes talking before the laugh is quite forgotten, as if she's afraid she won't be able to get the words out again if she stays silent for too long. You can take a guess if you'd like. I wouldn't be able to tell you if you were right or not. Anyway, yeah, it wasn't the crowd so much. I can deal with being in a crowd, it's easy to be ignored. You've seen me in the corridors. It was just that I'm not used to talking to someone one-on-one like that. And yes, I know we've talked a bit. Or sort of, at least. But I've known Ella for ages. Or not known her, but know of her. And she knows of me. She tried to speak to me a couple of times. I almost interrupted to mention that Ella told me about that once before, but I catch myself just in time, realizing that Anna probably doesn't want to be interrupted right now. But we've never spoken properly. And I'm worried that that's the impression people will have of me forever. And I'm not sure how to change it. She stops talking. The last couple of sentences sounded especially quavery, but she kept her voice clear. She breathes deeply and slowly for a moment. The first couple of breaths mirror the shakiness in her voice, though after a couple of repetitions they steady out. I don't look at her face. I don't think she'd want me to. Instead, I slide a little closer to her on the grass. My lower calf touches her knee. Anna's arm moves and she raises it hesitantly before gingerly patting my leg, and then placing her hand back in her own lap. My heart is racing just for having Anna talk to me at such length, though in a way I feel strangely guilty for the clear amount of effort it took her. She exhales. The crowd continues to mill around in front of us. So were you just saving up all your words from the last couple of weeks for this moment? She punches me on the arm. Sorry, I'm not very good at things like this. She doesn't respond. I rack my brain for something meaningful to say. Something comes to mind. I don't think Ella thinks badly of you or anything like that. I look over at Anna. She looks at me quizzically. She kept nagging me to get people to help out with the gala. When I told her I was thinking of asking you, well, think back to that moment. She was happy that I wanted to ask you, I think. I remember only now that Ella did express doubt that Anna would join us, and that she was not surprised when I failed to recruit her, but I elect not to mention this. And she kept nagging me to ask you out as well. Anna looks a little surprised at this for a moment, before laughing again. She shakes her head in mirth. I know. She seems to really enjoy playing matchmaker too. I don't want to call her a control freak or anything, but still. Anna squeaks. Not like a mouse or anything, it was an odd, constricted sort of noise. Looking over at her, she shakes her head and exhales again. I think she was trying to talk. My thoughts are confirmed. She pulls out her phone instead. The battery is dangerously low, but it should last the conversation. She taps something out, then looks over at me. I smile at her. She smiles back. I've gotten used to talking to you like this, you know? I'd miss it if it stopped completely. I look at my phone. Ella's a good person. I'm really glad she pushed you to do that. Oh! But you would have done it without her pushing you, right? Another small punch. She manages to get the same spot every time. That must be starting to bruise now. I laugh, despite the beatings. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Yeah, of course. Probably. Anna looks suspiciously at me. Well, you know, I haven't exactly been brimming with confidence since I arrived. Question comes into my head. Would you have asked me if I hadn't done it? She gives me one of those what do you think looks. For once, the answer isn't totally clear. Bullshit. What? Yeah. I guess if I was Ella, I would say no, definitely not. She wouldn't have asked. But I'm not Ella. And despite only having been here for a couple of weeks, I think I might know Anna better than Ella, who's been a classmate of hers for years. Maybe. Definitely, possibly. I think I must have been expressing this entire chain of thoughts on my face as Anna looks at me pityingly and nods. Yeah? When do you think you would have done it? Just after the time you did. I was about to, but you went and ruined it. Ah, damn, I shouldn't have bothered, huh? Another small laugh and we fall into a comfortable silence. I love the rapport that they have. My phone buzzes again after a minute. Sorry, we're back to texting. Seriously, don't worry about it. It's okay. I love that you talked to me. I almost say something about how I appreciate how much effort it must have taken, but I realized last second how hard Anna has been trying not to allow her voice to break, and that pointing that out would do more harm than good. It's almost like meeting you for the first time again, in a way. Except, man, you talk exactly how you type. Really? I'm afraid so. Well, it could be worse. Imagine if it was 2007 and I had to use T9 or something. Oh, fuck T9. Fuck T9 with a broken glass dildo. Geez, what's that? Don't tell me you've never used it. You know, it was that thing that you got on phones with just a number pad before touchscreens? Oh, right, I never really texted people much back then. You know, I think I can tell that from how you text now. What do you mean? Well, you actually use capital letters. We didn't have such a luxury back in the day. I laugh. I hadn't even noticed. Another short silence. Do you want to go somewhere now? Not that we have to, I mean. Up to you. She looks at me kindly. Actually, Eric, I think I need to go back to my room for a bit. Oh yeah? Got some homework to do or something? Oh, come on, fuck it. No. Yes, let's go with that. I've got a paper to write on the effects of sleeping until just about dinner time on the human body. Right. Funny, that sounds a lot like a nap. I said that to the teacher. They insisted it was hard, scholarly work. Okay, no, I need a nap. I take a quick look at my watch. It's just coming to 1400. Personally, I couldn't sleep right now, but I completely understand why Anna might need to. That sounds good. I find reading leaflets exhausting as well. No, I get it. Well, see each other tomorrow, yeah? Well, I thought I'd see you at dinner. I'm not that sick of you yet, Eric. Oh, right, yeah, I didn't think about that. Did you think I was gonna fall asleep now and not wake up until the morning? I mean, actually, that doesn't sound like a bad idea, but still. I'd be so hungry in the morning. Yeah, bad idea. Okay, see you in a few hours then. I stand up, Anna follows suit. She hesitates for a moment. What are you going to do? I take another quick look. Wait, hold on, what? Oh, she talks again, yeah! I took another quick look around at the stalls. They've lost what little luster they had to me a couple of hours ago. Not much, probably. I'd probably just sit down again as soon as you're out of sight. Is that what you do whenever I'm not around? I laugh. Pretty much. I better come back soon then, or you'll get even more boring than you already are. See you in a little bit, Eric. There's another barely perceptible hesitation before she smiles at me, then walks off. I knew that this route was one of my favorites for a reason. I just couldn't remember the exact dialogue and stuff that happened. I know the beats roughly. I knew that at some point she started talking, but I couldn't remember exactly when, and I don't remember any of the dialogue. So it's nice to play this again, even if I played this 5 months ago. It's almost like playing it again for the first time. It's great, especially with that little thing where she popped out of the side of the screen. That was great. I remember I lost my shit when I first saw that. I watch her go. She looks over her shoulder just before turning the corner to go out of sight, clearly expecting me to still be looking, and gives me a small wave. As promised, I sit again and gaze once more into the hypnotic, swirling crowd. Ella texts me for help with some last-minute work for the gala later in the night. Somehow I knew my servitude wasn't quite over. When we arrive at the Great Hall, it looks like the school staff has cleared out all the long rectangular tables that had been here for the open house and replaced them with circular ones. They're covered in clean white tablecloths and arranged at the sides of the room, with the central floor left open for dancing. They just asked me if you could set up the centerpieces for dinner. I think the supplies are over there. She points to the corner of the room where a bunch of cardboard boxes and wrapped glassware is sitting, unsightly in the perfection of the Great Hall. It shouldn't take too long. But it does. We have to assemble the centerpieces ourselves from the description Ella was given. Candles, vases, flowers, and we have to go asking around for the flowers because they don't seem to be here. And there's so many tables. We're not done until after curfew, but Ella promises me we'll be let off the hook because the job is so important. When I finally make it back to my room, I should be tired, but instead I stay up, thinking about tomorrow.